Hi, this is the AI Storyteller. I'm Mark. Part 2. In Part 1, the story began with the chaos caused by Oblonsky's affair, and it unfolded with parallel narratives of Anna and Levin. Structurally, both storylines underwent significant transformations. Anna finally succeeded in breaking free from her husband Karenin and being with Vronsky, while Levin and Kitty, after some ups and downs, found happiness together. It seemed like the story was headed for a smooth and happy conclusion, but, as you might suspect, things are never that simple. As mentioned in the Part 1 audio, the creation of Anna Karenina was a stop-and-start process. There were many reasons for the book's challenging creation, with some attributing it to Tolstoy's perpetual dissatisfaction with his art, leading him to continuously revise. Thomas Mann once said, "This astonishing saint, who is scandalized by nothing, not even by art, takes nothing for granted." This assertion holds some truth. In Part 2, we'll notice that Tolstoy's character portrayals are more nuanced, with many characters undergoing significant changes in their fates. These transformations are both natural and reasonable, and they are the result of Tolstoy's commitment to refining his work. However, the difficulties in life and the internal struggles were the fundamental reasons behind the arduous creative process. At this stage, Tolstoy's thoughts underwent a profound transformation, and his pursuit of the meaning of life led him into deep philosophical contemplation. Ultimately, Tolstoy turned to religion for solace. However, he didn't align himself with Eastern Orthodoxy or any organized religious sect. In fact, he vehemently rejected the state-sanctioned church, as he believed that every individual had the right to interpret God's will according to their own understanding. Consequently, in Tolstoy's later years, he helped many nonconformists escape Russia, even at the cost of his family's fortune. This was a significant manifestation of Tolstoy's philosophy of universal love. Correspondingly, Tolstoy's daily life underwent a tumultuous shift. Irreconcilable conflicts between him and his wife, Sophia, became increasingly bitter. She had little understanding of Tolstoy's philosophical ideas and opposed them vehemently, simultaneously disapproving of his libertine lifestyle. Tolstoy had many female admirers, extramarital affairs, and even fathered an illegitimate child. All of this drove Sophia to madness, and she expressed on multiple occasions her desire to kill the illegitimate child. Furthermore, Sophia was relatively worldly and pragmatic, valuing the satisfaction and vanity that came with Tolstoy's status as a great writer. Despite their strained relationship, she presented a facade of marital harmony to the outside world, which Tolstoy found repulsive. Tolstoy himself exhibited the typical Russian male chauvinism of his era. He couldn't do without women in his life, yet he considered women the source of moral corruption. In his view, Sophia embodied his own inability to overcome sensual desires and realize his ideals of social reform. These significant changes in his thoughts and the difficulties in his personal life were reflected in his work. Overall, Tolstoy used Anna to depict the struggles of life, while he used Levin to explore the quest for philosophical salvation. Although Anna and Levin appear to be entirely different individuals, they share a common trait: a reluctance to be constrained by society's established norms and a desire for freedom. The difference lies in their expression of this trait. Anna seeks to assert her freedom through her actions but continually fails, ultimately descending into despair. Levin, on the other hand, seeks liberation through thought. He understands his own uniqueness and continually contemplates the reasons behind it, leaving him in a state of inner turmoil. In the end, Anna meets an unfortunate fate in the real world, while Levin finds happiness through his philosophical pursuits. In Part 2, these two storylines seem to diverge further, yet their interconnections grow tighter. Only when we combine both narratives can we see a complete Tolstoy, a comprehensive portrait of Russian society at the time, and a multidimensional representation of human nature. The second part of the story begins with Levin and Kitty's wedding. Levin had abandoned religious life after coming of age, but as his wedding day approaches, he finds himself confronting religion once again, which makes him feel both uneasy and ashamed. Besides, Levin is still troubled by the thought of Vronsky's affair with Anna. Even on the day before the wedding, he doubts whether Kitty truly loves him, leading to a heated argument between the couple. Finally, they make it to the wedding day, but the ceremony is chaotic and clumsy, full of hiccups and stumbles. However, when Levin kisses his newlywed wife, he experiences a moment of pure happiness where nothing else matters except his profound love for her. This is quintessential Levin. His overactive analytical mind often gets him tangled up, but he eventually convinces himself and emerges from the confusion. At the end of Part 1, Anna and Vronsky went to Europe together without Anna getting a divorce. They'd been traveling in Europe for 3 months, which coincidentally is the time it took for Levin and Kitty to prepare for and get married. Anna and Vronsky had to avoid encountering their fellow countrymen abroad because, according to the doctrine of the Russian Orthodox Church, women like Anna were considered dirty and fallen, despised by high society. In the theater, Anna even suffered insults from noblewomen sharing her box. Anna knew her happiness with Vronsky was unlikely to be tolerated by society, and while she was willing to sincerely repent deep down, she felt she had nothing to repent for. With Vronsky, she experienced pure happiness, and her sole purpose in life was to hold on to this happiness, even to the extent of feeling jealous of their new Italian nursemaid. The proud and radiant Anna experiencing jealousy was something unimaginable during the events of Part 1. But this jealousy became one of the reasons why Vronsky, who was once blissful with Anna, could no longer find happiness in their relationship. For him, the freedom of bachelorhood was gone forever. In this situation, Vronsky was overjoyed when an old classmate, who had become a diplomat, paid him a visit. Interestingly, during their student days, Vronsky and this classmate did not get along. This diplomat introduced Vronsky to a struggling artist, as Vronsky had recently started learning to paint. He initially wanted to paint a portrait of Anna himself but never finished it, so he asked this artist to do it for him. The artist's work was executed effortlessly and was remarkably perfect. This seemingly minor episode is a metaphor. Vronsky can inspire Anna's vitality but does not appreciate and cherish it fully. The portrait incident cast a subtle shadow over their relationship, eroding the last traces of their enthusiasm abroad, and they eventually returned to Russia. The artist took 2 months to complete Anna's portrait. During this time, Levin's marriage faced some difficulties. Levin initially believed that marital life meant unrestrained enjoyment of love, but Kitty quickly assumed the role of the mistress of the house, keeping busy with household chores. This distressed Levin, who unconsciously blamed Kitty for everything. Despite feeling that she might have her own faults, Kitty was unwilling to admit them. Even if she made a conscious effort to be tender to her husband, it couldn't prevent conflicts from arising. At this moment, tragic news reached them. Levin's other brother was dying. This brother was entirely different from Levin and the writer brother mentioned earlier. He was a notorious playboy who had squandered his entire fortune early on, leading a miserable life, plagued by chronic illnesses and married to a former prostitute. Levin considered this matter undignified and initially didn't want Kitty to accompany him to visit his dying brother. However, Kitty insisted on going, and Levin reluctantly agreed. Facing his dying relative, Levin felt a deep fear and was at a loss, while Kitty appeared calm and composed, showing no hint of disgust. From this moment on, Levin began to notice a certain radiance in Kitty, which seemed to emanate from her newfound femininity, and he couldn't quite fathom it. So, what was the reason for this change? The answer will be revealed later. Tolstoy's lengthy novels typically lack chapter titles, but there is one exception in Anna Karenina. In Part 5, Chapter 20, there is a title, Death. In this chapter, Tolstoy intricately describes Levin's brother's oscillations between life and death, from awaiting death to yearning for survival, until he ultimately passes away. Despite the title being Death, this chapter concludes with the arrival of a new life. Kitty is pregnant, which explains the sudden radiance of femininity Levin observed in her. From Tolstoy's perspective, a woman can truly be considered a woman only after fulfilling her duty and obligation of giving birth. To some extent, throughout the novel, Tolstoy's definition of the perfect woman is primarily concentrated in Kitty. What's interesting is that, as with any literary work, the character who truly leaves an indelible mark in the reader's hearts is not the perfect Kitty but the flawed, contradictory, yet fully realized Anna. Similarly, Count Karenin is full of contradictions. After forgiving Anna and Vronsky, his sense of satisfaction gradually faded, and he started to lose his mental balance. In his view, he had given the most and received the least in his relationships. He was even more upset because society had ostracized him. Most heartbreaking for Karenin was that his hopes for career advancement had been dashed, and he had become an ineffectual laughingstock in government. To console him, the Tsar awarded him the Order of Alexander, but apparently, Karenin did not recognize the significance of this, nor did he realize that his own hypocrisy and emotional detachment were the reasons for his isolation. Consequently, his son remained emotionally distant from him. In this narrative, Tolstoy provides a defense for Karenin. He was an orphan, and his only sibling had lived abroad and ultimately died there. Karenin had no confidant with whom he could share his personal feelings, and the social conditions of the time did not allow for such friendships. Thus, he became accustomed to wearing the mask of hypocrisy. Regarding Anna, he had already given all the affection he could offer, even though it was far from enough for a woman like Anna. Many film adaptations of Anna Karenina depict Karenin as cold-hearted and ruthless, which is not entirely accurate. While it is undeniable that Karenin was hypocritical, especially toward his wife and child, he was, in fact, a good person. He held power but was neither corrupt nor bribed. He possessed both capability and courage. If he hadn't married Anna, his life might have been peaceful. Unfortunately, he married Anna, which, as the novel's opening sentence once again confirms, was the source of his misfortune. Upon returning to Petersburg, Anna deeply missed her son. In high society, Vronsky was accepted and even welcomed, while Anna was rejected and shunned. For Anna, whether in Petersburg or throughout all of Russia, the only source of belonging was her son. However, her request to meet with her son was denied, which left Anna in agonizing despair. Eventually, Anna decided to avoid Karenin and secretly meet with her son. The brief and tender meeting with her son inflicted even greater emotional trauma on Anna because she realized that from that point on, she was completely separated from him, not only physically but also emotionally. This immense gap prevented Anna from treating her and Vronsky's daughter fairly. She couldn't accept being separated from her son while lavishing affection on her daughter. Anna found herself in a precarious position, torn between hating Vronsky for causing her this predicament and needing him as the only anchor in her world. As a result, Anna began to imagine threats and obstacles where there were none. Although she understood that Vronsky would not fall in love with someone else, she couldn't stop herself from speculating on his potential infidelity. Thus, she continually provoked Vronsky, forcing him to express his loyalty in vulgar terms. In this way, even though Vronsky repeatedly compromised and tried to comfort the fragile Anna, she herself pushed her beloved further away. At the same time, Anna could sense a change in her friends' attitudes, with her sister-in-law Dolly being a representative case. Overall, Dolly pitied Anna's predicament, but at the same time, she envied Anna's luxurious lifestyle free from the mundane daily concerns that she herself had to deal with. Dolly noticed that the similarities between her and Anna, which had once existed, had disappeared completely. In terms of both their spiritual and material lives, they had become people from entirely different worlds. External pressures exacerbated Anna's suffering and indirectly affected her already strained relationship with Vronsky. Vronsky found himself ensnared in the web of love that Anna had woven, and he could only probe whether this web hindered his freedom through engagement in various social affairs. In a series of social events that Vronsky participated in, Levin, who accompanied Kitty to Moscow for her confinement, also got involved. Their interactions increased gradually. In this section, Tolstoy uses Vronsky's and Levin's activities to depict a Russian society that is transitioning toward the rule of law. At the time, Tsar Alexander II initiated judicial reforms, establishing zemstvos, local self-government institutions, which abolished the privileges of the nobility in judicial procedures. Most notably, he introduced the State Duma system. The Russian State Duma, equivalent to the lower house of parliament, was composed of representatives elected from various administrative regions. While this system is still in place in Russia today, the composition has changed to include representatives from political parties and local authorities. However, at that time, most of those who participated in the voting, including the nobility and Levin, did not fully understand the purpose behind their actions. They simply decided which side to support based on whether they belonged to the old or new nobility. Moreover, the crude election process resembled a farce. Nevertheless, regardless of these issues, this reform marked an important step toward modernization in Russia. However, the ever-changing winds of the outside world couldn't reach Anna's confined world. The things that were once in Anna's grasp, family, love, and friends, gradually slipped away like sand through her fingers. She realized that to regain Vronsky's love, she might have only one last card to play, resolutely divorcing Karenina, even if it meant losing her son forever. In this increasingly neurotic state, Anna encountered Levin, the two main protagonists of the book, for the first and only time. It happened at a club event, where Levin was visiting Anna on behalf of Oblonsky, who was attending to Kitty during her childbirth. Although from a man's perspective, Vronsky and Levin were entirely different types of individuals, Anna could immediately sense the shared sensitivity in their hearts. Anna used all her charm to deliberately entice Levin, trying to prove that her allure remained undiminished. Levin was powerless against this, even though reason told him not to fall in love with Anna. Emotions were hard to resist, especially under Anna's captivating aura. What Anna couldn't comprehend was that when she became hysterical out of jealousy, when she unconsciously threatened Vronsky with self-destruction, her charm turned into a frightening poison. Her subconscious was already telling her that she stood on the precipice of possible self-destruction. After meeting Anna, Levin honestly confessed his feelings to Kitty, which made her very jealous. It took Levin an entire night of cajoling to calm her down. The next morning, Kitty began to experience labor pains, and after enduring 22 hours of labor, she finally gave birth to a baby boy. As a new father, one would expect Levin to be overjoyed. However, Levin's thoughts would always jump out of the common patterns of thinking and approach problems from a more complex and solitary perspective. When he saw his son for the first time, Levin's immediate emotions were disgust and pity. This was because, prior to this, his brother had passed away, and he had just experienced Anna's ambiguous seduction. Concerning life and death, love, marriage, and family, Levin's ultimate confusion never ceased. Next, Oblonsky appeared with a smile on his face, but this time, life was slipping out of his control. In the first part of the book, the money he received from selling the forest that had come with Dolly's dowry was already squandered. Despite receiving an annual salary that was not meager, it couldn't cover his everyday expenses. This time, Oblonsky was nearly penniless. However, this didn't make him sad. He used all his connections to secure a suitable job and went to St. Petersburg to handle his own affairs, helping his sister with her divorce along the way. Despite being in a dire situation himself, Oblonsky didn't forget his warm-hearted nature. However, this time, Karenina disappointed him. Karenina refused to divorce Anna and intended to drag out the process. Simultaneously, the job search didn't go well, and Oblonsky finally revealed a sense of disappointment. The possibility of divorce was thus shattered. Vronsky began seeking every opportunity to go out, asserting his freedom, but Anna couldn't do the same because society forbade it. She was left to reflect every day, consumed by jealousy and hatred, thinking, "He has all the freedom, while I have nothing." After a heated argument, Vronsky coldly left, and Anna resorted to taking an overdose of opium before going out into the streets. She recalled the day she met Vronsky when a person was crushed by a train, and she also chose to place herself beneath the wheels. The entire process felt as light and casual as her initial introduction. She thought it was straightforward, a way to punish him, escape from everyone, and escape from myself. It wasn't until the moment just before the train's wheels rolled over her back that she suddenly startled and asked herself, "Where is this? What am I doing? What's it all for?" But it was too late. Her life's candle, after flashing brightly one last time, was extinguished forever. Although Anna was not the ideal woman in Tolstoy's mind from the beginning, and from today's perspective, Tolstoy's views on women cannot be considered correct, this great realist writer did not let his biases change the logical behavior of his characters. Tolstoy's keen observations of reality and his ability to depict it made the character of Anna increasingly rich and three-dimensional during the writing process. She not only broke free from the author's predetermined plot but also transcended the limitations of her time and the author's personal beliefs. Throughout the entire book, the only character who undergoes significant changes in psychological state and behavior trajectory is Anna. Most other characters make a deep impression on readers when they first appear and remain consistent throughout the story. However, Anna is an outlier in this world. Her sensitive and free nature did not find a nurturing environment, and eventually, her sensibilities turned pathological, hysterically proving her existence. Society refused to acknowledge her and her freedom, and Anna herself refused to seek liberation through other means. Apart from self-destruction, Anna had no other way out. After Anna's death, the story did not end. Soon after, the Russo-Turkish War broke out, and Vronsky chose to go to the front lines to fight. Anna and Vronsky's daughter used the surname Karenina and continued to live with Karenin. Dolly finally made up her mind to divorce Oblonsky, and Oblonsky found a new job in the railway department. Meanwhile, the thinker Levin remained deeply trapped in confusion about life and death, exploring the essence of life without finding answers. These ultimate questions pushed this physically robust and happily married man to contemplate suicide several times, to the point where he had to hide ropes and a revolver. It wasn't until the end, when he talked to a peasant, that he suddenly realized. The questions about life didn't need answers, they were innate, and everyone knew how to live. So, the existence of religion was reasonable, but God's will did not need interpretation by the Church. Everyone's understanding was valid. This was a Tolstoyan revelation, and a similar theme could be found in both War and Peace and Resurrection. After resolving the questions about life, Levin emerged from his confusion and began a new life. Anna Karenina concluded its story there. In a sense, the connection between the two storylines in the second part became closer. The time Anna and Vronsky spent traveling in Europe almost coincided with Levin's marriage to Kitty. The development of their lives followed similar trajectories, both facing crises but with one finding liberation while the other headed toward destruction. Fundamentally, both Anna and Levin were expressions of human nature pursuing the natural course of life, but Levin was more capable of contemplating the profound contradictions in society than Anna. So, even though the two protagonists didn't know each other for most of the novel, we could see more clearly through Levin's thoughts the pressures that society imposed on everyone, indirectly providing a detailed and profound explanation for Anna's tragedy. Anna herself couldn't solve the problem with outside help or through contemplation. She could only resist through action, but this resistance was in vain and only made the pressure heavier. From a different perspective, Anna represented the dilemmas in reality that Tolstoy observed, while Levin acted as an observer and thinker in a parallel world, to a large extent, speaking for Tolstoy himself, analyzing the causes of the dilemmas while also presenting his understanding of the ideal life and proposing certain abstract but philosophical solutions. The 19th century was the golden age of the novel, especially the realist novel. With just a pen in the hands of authors, they could encompass the functions of all the cameras, camcorders, and recording devices we have today. Authors and readers formed a level of understanding that is hard to imagine in our contemporary world. Authors, almost with godlike confidence, wove all their observations of society and reflections on life into grand narrative frameworks. Leo Tolstoy was a master of this art. Although the main content of Anna Karenina is primarily confined to family life, the tendrils of the text delve deep into the capillaries of society as a whole. Many minor characters in the novel, such as peasants, small landowners, and merchants, come to life vividly. We can describe it as an encyclopedic novel, and Lenin referred to it as a mirror of the Russian Revolution. However, perhaps more importantly, it's Tolstoy's ability to penetrate through the surface and delve into the characters' inner worlds. He accurately captures and patiently portrays the myriad fluctuations within the inner lives of the main characters. The depictions of family struggles still evoke a deep sense of empathy in today's readers. When we watch Anna walking towards the railway tracks, what deeply shakes us is not just the passing of a beautiful life or the tragedy of another person, but also our own vulnerability, our own entanglement in various contradictions. Well, that concludes the content for this episode. If you enjoyed my video, please click like, subscribe to my channel, and share it with your friends. Thank you.